When a man saved a wolf, he never expected what would happen 4 years later. In the rugged, snow-capped peaks of Alaska, where gold prospectors ventured in search of fortune, a tale unfolded that transcended the pursuit of riches. A tale of compassion, trust, and an extraordinary bond between a man and a wolf. Wolves are social creatures, living in packs that can range in size from a few individuals to over a dozen. They are highly intelligent and cooperative animals, working together to hunt, raise their young, and defend their territory. Wolves are also apex predators, playing a vital role in maintaining the health of the ecosystems they inhabit. Their keen senses of smell, sight, and hearing make them formidable hunters, and their powerful jaws and legs allow them to take down prey much larger than themselves. However, wolves are also wary of humans. Centuries of persecution have instilled in them a healthy dose of caution. An encounter between a human and a wolf is usually a fleeting one, with the wolf disappearing into the woods as soon as it senses danger. If you're interested in learning more about wolves and the threats they face, please consider subscribing to our channel. And don't forget to like the video. We regularly post videos about wildlife conservation and the importance of protecting these magnificent creatures. John, a seasoned prospector, had spent years navigating the unforgiving Alaskan terrain, driven by the allure of gold. His days were filled with the rhythmic clang of his pickaxe against the earth and the quiet solitude of the wilderness. But one day, his routine was interrupted by a sight that would forever alter his perspective. As John traversed a remote valley, his eyes fell upon a heartbreaking scene. A female wolf, her fur matted with blood and her eyes filled with despair, lay ensnared in a steel trap. The cruel device had clamped onto her leg, rendering her helpless. John, though a hardened prospector, couldn't ignore the creature's plight. Approaching cautiously, John observed the wolf's surroundings. It didn't take long for him to discover the reason for her desperation. Hidden amongst the rocks, nestled in a makeshift den, were 4 tiny wolf pups. Their whimpers of hunger tugged at John's heartstrings. He knew that if their mother remained trapped, they would surely perish. Driven by an innate sense of compassion, John resolved to help. He carefully approached the den, his movements slow and deliberate to avoid frightening the pups. With gentle hands, he gathered the vulnerable creatures and carried them back to their mother. The wolf, initially wary of John's presence, seemed to sense his intentions. Her eyes, once filled with fear, now held a glimmer of hope. John knew that freeing the wolf from the trap would be a challenge. Wolves were not known for their trust in humans, and this one had endured the pain and trauma of capture. But John was determined to try. Over the next few days, he made frequent visits to the den, bringing food for both the mother and her pups. He spoke softly to the wolf, his voice soothing and reassuring. Gradually, the wolf's demeanor began to shift. She would no longer cower at John's approach, instead watching him with cautious curiosity. Her pups, nourished and cared for, grew stronger and more playful. John found himself increasingly drawn to the wolf family, marveling at their resilience and the unbreakable bond between mother and offspring. One day, as John knelt beside the wolf, offering her a piece of meat, he noticed a subtle change in her behavior. It wasn't just the usual eagerness to snatch the food away. This time she hesitated for a moment, her gaze locked on his. A silent conversation seemed to pass between them, a tentative bridge built on shared experience. Then, with a gentle nudge of her snout, she nudged his hand, the touch surprisingly light and almost affectionate. It was a gesture that spoke volumes, a wordless thank you that transcended the limitations of language. John's heart swelled with a warmth that had nothing to do with the Alaskan sun. In that moment, he knew that a bond of trust had begun to form, a fragile connection built on mutual respect and compassion. With tools he had brought from his camp, John carefully began to dismantle the trap. The wolf remained still, her eyes fixed on him intently. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the trap sprung open, releasing the wolf's leg. John held his breath, expecting her to flee into the wilderness. But the wolf surprised him. Instead of running, she turned towards John, her tail wagging gently. She approached him, her movements slow and deliberate. Reaching him, she licked his hand, her rough tongue conveying gratitude and affection. Then, with a tilt of her head, she led John towards a hidden path. Following the wolf, John found himself entering a clearing deep within the woods. There, he witnessed a sight that would forever remain etched in his memory. A pack of wolves emerged from the shadows, their eyes gleaming in the fading light. The female wolf he had rescued rejoined her family, her pups excitedly greeting her. John watched from a distance, a silent observer of this touching reunion. The next morning, John bid farewell to the wolf family, his heart filled with a profound sense of fulfillment. He knew that he had witnessed something truly special, a connection between man and animal that transcended the boundaries of language and species. As he descended the mountain, he carried with him the memory of the wolf's grateful eyes and the warmth of her unexpected affection. 4 years passed, and John's life returned to its familiar rhythm. The days were filled with the usual routine of prospecting, the solitude broken only by the sounds of nature and the clinking of his pickaxe. Yet, a part of him remained in the valley, forever entwined with the memory of the she-wolf and her pups. He often found his thoughts drifting back to the clearing, replaying the events in his mind. A strange longing tugged at his heart, a yearning to revisit the place where he had experienced such an extraordinary connection. Giving in to his intuition, John retraced his steps to the clearing. Standing at its edge, he called out with a low wolf howl. The sound echoed through the trees, and for a moment there was silence. Then, a dark shape emerged from the undergrowth. It was the female wolf, her coat now thick with age. She approached John cautiously, her eyes scanning his face. Recognizing him, her tail began to wag excitedly. She nuzzled against him, her warmth and affection as palpable as the day they had parted. For a few precious moments, John and the wolf shared a silent communion, a connection that transcended time and circumstance. Then, as suddenly as she had appeared, the wolf turned and disappeared back into the woods. John never saw her again, but the memory of their encounter continued to inspire and uplift him. He had learned that compassion and kindness could bridge even the wildest divides, and that the bonds formed between man and animal could be as profound as any human relationship.